afternoon has been fighting with technology. So good. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Finaro.
Here.
Ms. Grieve.
Here.
Ms. Grosek.
Here.
Mr. Hess.
Here.
Mr. Tressi.
Here.
You would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, as far as community communications, we did have a submission for public comment, and that is from Gail Teresi. So, Gail, if you would like to go ahead, and the microphone should be right over here. And
Can I stay right here?
Wherever you
Sit right here?
Sure, whatever.
Sure.
Just flip up this button to talk.
Gail, we have a 3-minute time requirement, so once I set the timer, I will then say go, and I will give you, you want a hand signal like this?
That's fine.
Okay, when we're at a minute, and I'll do 30 seconds and so forth. So, drop this to 3. The floor is yours.
So thank you, board members, Dr. Barnes, Mr. Snyder, for allowing me to speak this evening. I am the chair of the levy committee. My co-chair is Joanne Pinto, who's not here this evening, and Jeff Lykover, who is here, and our treasurer. Our goal is to go before the voters in November for our school levy. It's been 8 years, I believe it was 2016, the last time we passed a levy, and it's really time to move on and go before the residents for a new levy. We're very fortunate that money that we've had has been used efficiently and effectively for the last 8 years, but with the rising cost of an inflationary cost, it is really time to put this levy to the residents. The levy will stabilize funding for at least 4 more years. Without it, we may have to go to reductions in the budget. We don't want to do that and shortchange our children. So it is crucial that we pass the levy. There are a number of reasons why, but I will give you just a few. And one of them is to continue the high, well-rounded education that the students are accustomed to. It'll allow our faculty to continue to prepare these students for college and for careers. It'll allow us to advance our Excel Tech program, where we turn away 400 students a year. You know, not everyone goes to college, so Excel Tech is really very important. We need carpenters and plumbers, as well as teachers and bankers. So Excel Tech will allow that if we have the funds to expand that program. So we've been very fortunate that we have contracted with Burgess & Burgess, who will be running the campaign for us. They have a lot of experience in both school levies, judicial levies, surveying, and they've done a great job of doing a survey for all of the residents in our community. They have had good results, but there were still some voters that were either undecided or no voters because of the cost. 1 minute. So it's important that we pass this levy, and I gave you a number of reasons. It protects our property values and the quality of the programs that we provide. I want everyone to know that as you speak to people, let them know we will be on the ballot. We're on the back side of the ballot at the very bottom, so it's very important to turn that ballot over after you vote. And let's talk to everyone we can and turn those undecided voters into yes votes. One quick note, very quickly, is that Burgess & Burgess have already set up a website, and it is voteformayfieldskids.com. It's up and running, and it's a great website. Take a look at that. We're also on Facebook, and we're also on Instagram. So thank you for allowing me the time to speak, and I hope that you vote yes when it comes up on your agenda this evening.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. 3 minutes on the nose.
Don't worry, I'm not a person who wants to talk anymore. Really? Is my face all red for 3 minutes?
Okay.
All good.
All I'm glad that the website is up and is there to answer questions. So
It is.
That's awesome.
It's really very well done. And I should can I say something else very quickly?
Madam President?
When you go to the website, it is vote for, F-O-R, mayfieldkids.com. When you go to Facebook or Instagram, it is vote the numeral 4.
Okay.
Good distinction.
Yes, so, and I really thought about having that changed, but just so if you're giving that out to anyone, you know the difference.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you.
All right. I believe that moves us to President's announcements. I do have a wonderful announcement that at this time, all 5 board members have taken and passed the, oh my goodness, what's it called? Aptitude, thank you. I was thinking of attitude and I was like, no, that's not right. The aptitude test that's through Ohio school boards, which means that we will all receive that award in the fall. And that was one of our goals that we talked about in January, so that's one checked off. Other than that, I have nothing else.
Thanks, Madam President. I'd just like to thank the board for your continued support of me as your superintendent to advocate on behalf of public education. I just got back from DC today. Spent the last 2 days on Capitol Hill with other superintendents from across the nation, advocating on the Hill for matters that are very important to K-12 education. So I appreciate your support and allowing me and supporting me to do that on behalf of not only Mayfield, but all kids in public schools across our nation. Just to know, there was a laundry list of issues that were being discussed. One in particular that just to know for us to keep our eye on was a matter of federal funding for public education and diverting dollars to non-public educational institutions. So that was a big one. And then also in particular, Title I and Title II funds, which rumors are that there will be threats to those being cut. Title I is for economically disadvantaged students. Title II is for professional development to continue to support teachers and being the best versions of themselves so that they can have the highest impact on kids. So great time there. It's still going on. Obviously, we had a board meeting, so I flew back this afternoon, but I just appreciate your continued support because that's important for not only us, but all children. So thank you.
We appreciate you doing that job because it's very important for not only Mayfield, but all public education.
Thank you.
I move to committee reports. Are there any?
No.
I have one. Madam President, I would just like to report as the board representative for the Mayfield Schools Foundation. As of the end of June, the Mayfield Schools Foundation has officially ended with the Mayfield Alumni Association taking over the mission from the board. I was a board member for the Mayfield Schools Foundation prior to be elected to the Mayfield Board of Education, so I continue to serve on that board. And I am also on the board prior to being elected on the Mayfield Alumni Association, so I was already affiliated with the Alumni Association. I have a fun job doing spirit wear, but of course I, help them with some fundraising, and I will say the foundation's work is in good hands with the Alumni Association to continue all of those, the goals and supporting the initiatives of the Mayfield City School District. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, I believe that moves us to the superintendent's consent agenda, items A through F. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Vesey moved, Mr. Hess seconded. Mr. Fenaro?
Yes.
Ms. Reed?
Yes.
Ms. Grosek?
Yes.
Mr. Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Tressi?
Yes.
And in other superintendent's business, we have the 2024-2025 Mayfield Preschool Parent Handbook. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
I will say that it is very well-written handbook. I was very impressed with the job done. Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
and Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Next, we have the course of study. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
And we move to the treasurer's report and financial statements for June 30th, 2024. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Next, we have the BOI 2024-25 financial transactions. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
This is beginning of year, so it's not boy as in child. And these are essentially return of funds that statutorily were required to end 1 year with positive cash balances. Most of these relate to federal grants. Ironically, or I guess consistent with what Dr. Barnes said, Title I, Title II are 2 federal grants that we received. So this is simply returning those funds. So it's more of a ministerial task, not really anything of actual operational substance.
Okay, roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
That moves us to the 2024 cell phone stipends.
Actually, we have the minutes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Did it again. I wasn't watching the proper highlight. Okay, the minutes of the regular board meeting of June 26, 2024, and the special meeting of July 1st, 2024. Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Now we get to move to the 2024-2025 cell phone stipends.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
And we have the 2024-25 Chromebook repair fees. Motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
Very reasonable fees.
Thank you for putting those in there, to show the difference
Yep.
from year
Yep.
to year.
Mhm. Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Next, we have the 5-year forecast presentation.
Yes,
Take it away,
I
Mr.
intend to be
Snyder.
extremely brief. I know I say it all the time. I will not be a liar this evening, since I just came in. And for the audience, since there are so many of you, I've actually got copies if you'd like to follow along, almost like an adjunct to the program. You're good? Excellent. So the whole intent of this slideshow is, since you will be taking action on the 5-year forecast, we did walk through it in its entirety at a special meeting, walking through end of year balances. I believe that was July 20, or June 25th, the day before the 26th, when we approved end of year transactions. So what I want to do and what I want to start with is, this is the projected years. So 24-25, I extended it out a 6th year to 29-30. And what I'm illustrating here with the yellow line is this is ending cash balances. You can see the numbers listed below indicates operating deficits, or the operating deficits that we're about to incur. So we have mentioned at that meeting that we begin deficit spending, outflows exceed inflows beginning next year. And without additional resources, you can see 2 phenomena happening. One is the deficits continue to get larger, because obviously there's a compounding effect. The cash balances begin to be depleted, and eventually we do end up with an end of year deficit. This black essentially horizontal line is the cash reserve target. 25% of operating expenses within each of these projected years is that targeted balance, or the equivalent of 90 days. So this does include the reappraisal values, though it wasn't known what those percentages were going to look like. We assumed 20% in both class 1 and class 2 properties, so think 20% in residential, 20% in business. Some of our communities have seen a larger, most of, in fact, all but one, saw a larger increase in their reappraisal percentage in class 1 property or homeowners, residents, with the exception of one. I believe Mayfield Village came in at 18%, all the others were north of 20%, but the class 2 property all came in well under 20%. So even though there were larger increases in class 1, it was offset by the reductions in class 2. So a long way of saying it, when I evaluated the impact and what we projected, we're well within a reasonable tolerance. So I believe this to be still a true story, regardless of what that reappraisal values look like. So we begin deficit spending next year, and you can see as it continues and is projected throughout the course of this 6-year time frame, we fall below our reserves in 26-27, and we actually end the year with a deficit in 29-30. And I'll demonstrate in a moment why we can continue to spend down, but we then have to address deficits, and then we have to address increases, projected increases. So it's kind of a double whammy at that point. There's been questions about cash reserves. What is our current position as it relates to cash reserves? I'm going to read some of this to you. I mentioned cash reserves are calculated at 25% of total operating expenditures, or in essence, 90 days of targeted ending cash reserves. So we all, on June 30th, if everything came to a stop, we could pay bills for 90 days. That's what that means, without receiving any additional revenue. This targeted value is considered a strategic one-time reserve allowance to allow the district to thoughtfully react to 3 significant risk factors. I could mention a 4th risk factor, meaning pandemic, but I think we're kind of beyond that. Each representing a 30-day cash reserve requirement, given their materiality and in concert with the collective 90-day period. So we've got economic, significant downturn in economic factors. I know with reappraisal, we've had an uptick in that side of the ledger, but that doesn't mean it's more money to us, but the economy is still somewhat uncertain. Cash flow. We've got some significant taxpayers in this district that if they were to have their own cash flow issues, that would have a ripple effect on us. And finally, legislative. As Dr. Barnes was mentioning being in DC, well, we've got some folks a little closer to home down in Columbus that budget in 2-year cycles that have things oftentimes embedded in what are called unfunded mandates. And we've also been sharing with this board and with the community at large that north of 90 cents of every operating revenue dollar we receive comes from local sources. But we operate at the whim of the Ohio General Assembly. So they get to dictate how we spend not only the 5 cents that they send us, but also the 90 cents that we collect locally. Any questions about that? Now we can adjust these, but please know there will be an impact, and I would say that a positive of the cash reserves we had was during the pandemic, leading up to it, we used our strategic one-time reserves to pay for learning devices, these surfaces, in advance of our cycles because we were uncertain what the world was going to look like. So we got into that buying market quick, procured all these items, and had enough on hand. So remote learning, we were ready to hit it. So I think that's a positive, having cash reserves. Think of it in terms of a savings account at home. If your roof collapses and you need, or say something happens with your car, same concept. You take it from your savings account because typically you're looking at one time for one time. Not something you're going to pay every month. I wouldn't necessarily take savings and then go out and buy a new property that has a monthly mortgage, as an example. Fact, you've seen this before. I'm just going to orient you and hopefully the audience to this. This is factors used to determine a millage need. We don't simply arbitrarily come up with a number. We try to use data to guide us, though much of it is projected, but data to guide us on what this millage rate should look like. So in this example, 1 mil, as expressed, is 1.55 million, and that's currently what the duplicate generates now before reappraisal. If we want the levy to last 4 years, we put that number in 4 or 5, whatever that value, whatever the duration we want, If we believe that the year-over-year expenditure change is 3 million, there's a 4.5% inflationary factor on top of the 3 million. And in this particular example, we're beginning deficit spending in the first year of collection. So 3 million in year one, it costs 12.8 million at the end of 4 years because of 3 million in year one, another 3 million plus 4.5, another 3.1 plus 4.5, so see all that. Then we go from left to right, 3.135, we add another 3 million in the following year. We project all the way from left to right so that in a 4-year time frame, the overall expenses grow by 32.9 million. In this example, which isn't too far from the truth. Divided by 4 because we have to collect X amount of dollars each year to make up this 32.9 equals, we need $8.2 million a year. If 1 mil generates 1.5 million, 8.2 divided by 1.5 equals a 5.32 mil operating levy to cover the expenses projected for a 4-year period. Everybody got that? Now, we've also got to make up, in this example, if 1.5 million is the current structural deficit, we've got to fill that gap too. So we have to add another 0.98, 1.5 divided by 1.54, 0.98, so 5.32 plus 0.98 equals a 6.31 mil operating levy. If we were to simply do it all, to basically say we want to get back to neutral, center, middle. Make sense? Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, let's just wait. Let's wait to year 4. Let's spend the reserves down. So if our cash reserves were 25% of operating revenue, so we start at 20.6 million. We wait to year 4. Cash reserves are 4.4 million. The levy, we'd have to fill this gap plus this gap, and I didn't apply an inflationary factor on top of it. We would go from 5.32 plus 4.7, because we'd have to, 4.7 mils would fill the $7.2 million operating deficit. We'd have to ask for a 10 mil operating levy. If this failed, the following year, we're looking at a deficit, so we're cutting. There is no safety net. We've depleted our reserves, and we're going to be even further underwater from a cash operating inflows versus operating outflows, which is why you never want to wait to this point. Even though you've got cash reserves now, they go quickly. So that's why the first year of an operating deficit, you tend to want to consider putting a levy on the ballot. You look at where have you been? The last time we were on in 2016, we said 4 years. 2020, we'd be back on the ballot. That was the commitment then. It's been 8 years. We've stretched this thing. I'll talk about that in a moment. I'm not going to go through all of this, but this shows a financial projection with a 5 mil levy in it, and the deficits that were included on the first bar graph are now pushed all the way out to 28, 29. We do have unreserved balances, and they are still above our 25% target, even in the 4th year. I should say 4th year right here. But we'll use those dollars to hopefully stretch this levy again, or unfunded mandates, or some economic downturn that we can't project or predict from this point forward. We negotiate with all of our unions at the end of not this school year, but the following school year. Our settlement was very, very beneficial for both parties. We used one-time resources in exchange for permanent ongoing expenses. The union worked very closely with us. The market today, this year, it's a 2.5% base increase. The current market rates are 5, 4s or 5s. So we are constantly looking, constantly working, stretching the levies. So this thing is 5 mil operating levy factors, fiscal stewardship. I mentioned it's been 8 years since the last levy. We promised 4, we got 8. While typical school district inflation is between 4 and 6%, that is just the way it is because there's a lot of uncontrollable factors. 80 cents of every dollar we spend are in people. That's why that's a larger percentage than what most people might intuitively think. Our average annual operating expenditure change since 2016 has been 3%. That's how we were able to extend this levy cycle because we were under the norm between 1 and 3%, depending upon whatever those high years would look like. We worked closely with our unions. We looked at all things internal. We just got, I don't want to say lucky, but in some instances we got lucky. Our health insurance didn't increase as much as we'd expected. We were self-funded. We didn't have any large catastrophic events that really caused our rates to spike. I think this is also important. We strategically used the $4.2 million of one-time federal stimulus money without adding any continuous ongoing expenses while navigating the pandemic crisis. Some districts hired permanent staff. We didn't do that. We hired temporary staff because this was a temporary problem with temporary resources. When we realized we didn't need as much temporary staff, we also did, we needed to get kids back up to grade level, so we paid for professional development and tutors, intensified, and then that was a temporary basis. We also used these resources to improve facilities. We added new windows and air handling units at some of our buildings using one-time money, one time. You know, Mayfield schools, everybody looks at our tax rate and they think it's extremely high. If you look at it relative to Cuyahoga County, which is the market we're in, our 2023 residential effective tax rate is less than the median or the midpoint rate and the average rate within the county. So we're less than the middle and the average of all 31 districts. So in spite of what people may say, relatively speaking, we're very average when it comes, or less than average when it comes to our tax rate. And that's the market. Houses are more expensive in Cuyahoga County than they are in Geauga County. That's the market. So you can't cherry pick out in Geauga County to say it's equal in Cuyahoga County because it just isn't. You're paying for the access to downtown. You're paying for all the amenities that exist in Cuyahoga County. With roughly 90% of Mayfield CSDs, our school taxes are subject to the reduction factors because of House Bill 920. The 2024 reappraisal will not generate large increases of tax revenue to the district to offset those projected deficits. House Bill 920 was implemented back in 1976 because of hyperinflation, kind of what we're seeing now. Our millage is all voted and continuing, which means as properties rise, the millage rate is reduced, so we get the same amount of money on carryover property. We have 10% of our taxable mills can grow with inflation. 10%. So if there's a 23% increase, it's a 2.3% increase overall to us. I've calculated this thing, it's under 2% for us with reappraisal currently. It's like 1.9%. It's not enough, and that was factored in with those deficits projected. Finally, a 5 mil operating levy will cost a homeowner's property carries a fair market value of $100,000, regardless of community, $175 annually, or $14.58 a month. I know that that's not the average home value in all of our 4 communities, but just do the math. That times whatever, it's 500,000 times 5, 200,000 times 2. It's quite simple. I share this with you because on the agenda this evening is the second resolution. You are approving the 5-year forecast. All of this is embedded in the document to support the ask, and I thought it was important to at least do a global overview of factors going in and the summary or summative and projected results moving forward to just demonstrate we are looking at deficits moving forward. So it's not as if this is something we want to do, it's something that we need to do at this point. Any questions of me? I know it was a little more on the, yes.
So the cost of the value, fair market value on a $100,000 home is based on current market value, correct?
It's just it's whatever your market value would be. So if it's 600,000 currently, it's, I think I need 5, based on what, 5 mills this levy will be reduced by whatever the average increase looks like next year. So I believe that this 5 mills, if passed, will be taxed at like 3.9 because it will be reduced because it's based off of the 23 values, not the 24 values, if that's your question.
That is. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Okay, that moves us to the approval of the 5-year forecast.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
And in other board business, we have a resolution submitting to the electorate the question of a 5.0 mil operating levy.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Finaro,
Yes.
Ms. Grieve,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
And this doesn't have to be submitted till August 7th.
For August 7th is the required filing date. So we will make certain that the necessary documents, we're gonna call them to make certain what you need. We made certain, when the resolutions were generated by legal counsel, we were advised to have the Board of Elections confirm that it was following the appropriate format. So we're gonna do that first before we do anything. Likely we'll file this thing in early August,
Thank you.
but before the 7th.
Yeah, in case it closed down 10 minutes early that day.
Like to do with the actual collection dates, which, by the way, I think the second half are due July 18th.
It's that day.
For those who are paying the second half 2023 taxes.
So that moves us to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Fenaro,
Yes.
Ms. Grieve,
Yes.
Ms. Grosek,
Yes.
Mr. Hess,
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes, but before we leave, Ronnie has a birthday, Al has a birthday, Suze has a birthday, and Scott has a birthday on a Sunday.
Yep.
How about that?